Hey there, it is September 30th, 2015, Wednesday, comic book day. Not a big pull this week, gonna try and fit this all into one video, but you'll know just from the title whether I'm successful at that or not. But trying to do that, let us start today with Superman, issue 44. Long story short, I don't think I'm going to be picking this book up anymore. Um, it's been kind of iffy for a while now, honestly, the Superman book. But this issue was just the one that metaphorically broke the camel's back. It's messy, it's overstuffed, it's not well written, like the dialogue or anything. None of the characters are written well at all. It's just a big mess of a book, if we're being completely honest here. The art's not great. Um, yeah, there's just nothing here. We begin with the uh, the Royal Flush Gang basically ambushing Clark Kent, um, and then Clark kind of just beating them up, and then we suddenly rush to a hostage situation at the Daily Planet where we have another new live wire make her debut. Um, yeah, that's her. Again, art isn't even that good. Um, and then you have Clark Kent just beat up a bunch of random villains uh, in this hostage situation. You also have some stuff going on with Lois Lane, but it's just not exciting. You have one beat here with a criminal who blames his wife dying on Superman, and they barely develop that at all. He's in like 2 pages. Um, and then you have Perry White get shot, and there's a whole big thing about that. You have Superman making an ultimatum against his enemies in order to keep his friends safe. This is probably the prettiest spread in the book right here, and a lot of that is more color than line work or anything. Um, yeah, this book just isn't fun. It's not good. There's nothing really Superman about it that like nothing that like jumps out at me and says this is why I'm reading a Superman book. It's yeah, it's just not a fun read. Not enjoying it at all. Probably going back to not picking it up. Next up is Justice League 44, Dark Side War Part 4. Um, and this book continues to be insane. Just total balls to the wall, no holds barred action. Just it really is just like Jeff Johns saying, "Well, what's the biggest story I can do?" and then doing it. Um, so we begin with this and this book so far has been narrated almost entirely by Wonder Woman. So we begin with her narration in this issue, talking about the god Gelos, who is the Amazonian or Greek god of laughter, and it's the ones that the Amazonians feared most. And of course, you have the parallel between the Joker and Batman, right here with the laughing one being the most sinister god. We then cut to Batman and Green Lantern. Batman, of course, still on the Mobius chair as the two find out where the Anti-Monitor is from. What is the Anti-Monitor's story? Can we possibly find a weakness? Meanwhile, while they're doing that, the entire Justice League is basically being sidelined by the Anti-Monitor and the Darkseid fight. And I think this is great because the Justice League is the team they call, it's who we rely on when the problem is too big for any hero on their own. When it's too big for Superman, too big for Batman, too big for the Flash or Wonder Woman or Green Lantern or any of that, they all come together to handle the threats that no one else could. And this is a threat that sweeps them under the rug, that just totally blows them away. It's way too big. It is the two, scariest, most evil forces in the universe going at each other. And just the amount of power on display here it's jaw-dropping. Just how the entire Justice League can get pushed aside by these titans fighting each other. We then cut to Superman and Lex Luthor on Apocalypse, still with Superman kind of getting evil, of a kind of a, and I really like the effect of just like this black and white Superman, fully powered, but also consumed by the evil of Apocalypse, just threatening Lex Luthor all the time. Um, just really, basically saying, now that I don't have my moral compass, you're dead. And you can see on the final panel on this page, like the only reason you survived to this point, I held back. And the book goes just more and more crazy. Eventually, the Anti-Monitor, or rather, Darkseid summons the Black Rider, who is kind of the Grim Reaper of the DC universe. I think he's a Flash villain, or he had a story with the Flash where the Flash outran him and he's death, and so like the Black Rider's back, and that plays kind of a bigger role in the story. It ties into the Flash again, and eventually Batman and Green Lantern find out Anti-Monitor's secret. They find out his backstory, his origin, and it just gets more and more insane from there. We find out what Anti-Monitor is, and just how powerful he is, and again, this is like the biggest story Jeff Johns could possibly tell, and it is nonstop action. It's a bit silly. It gets to the point where the power levels are too high. It gets a bit hammy, I guess, maybe a bit kind of mellow, like a mellow epic, sort of like melodramatic, mellow epic. But it's fun. This is a fun book to read. So even if it gets kind of stupid and kind of out there, it's just fun. It's big and fun and enjoyable and silly, so I can't really complain about it that much. Next up is Grayson, issue 2, and not issue 2, annual number 2. And again, this is just another really fun book. This one has Grayson catching up with Superman after being dead, or pretending to be dead. You start off with this flashback to a early adventure of Batman and Robin. The classic Batman, Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson, Batman and Robin team up as they're going against Blockbuster, with the help eventually of Superman. And I just love how bright Superman is in these opening pages. You have kind of a dark, tones with Batman and Robin, and then you just have big, bright blue Superman blast onto the scene, and just bring all that Supermaniness. And you have on the bottom, Superman and Dick Grayson becoming friends, being buds, which continues along the rest of the story too. And this book is fun. It's a funny book. After the flashback, you have Dick Grayson kind of saying goodbye to Gotham, and he's leaping off the building, and all of a sudden Superman again pops out of nowhere, thinking that Dick Grayson is a suicide attempt, doesn't recognize him because of the spiral eye thing, and just have this really fun moment there when they meet up again after all these years. And so Dick and Clark catch up, each tell each other what they've been up to, with Dick being a super spy and Clark losing his powers. And then they get ambushed by the Fist of Cain. And the Fist of Cain are crazy. I can't remember if they've been off any, if they've been in any books before this. Dick mentions that the Fist of Cain has been part of the Grayson books. They took down their boss. But it's crazy. What they do is they kill for points. They've turned murder they've gamified it. And so everybody's worth a certain amount of points, and Superman, because he's one of a kind, is worth a lot of points, and Dick Grayson, because he's part of Spiral, is worth a lot of points. And so they basically have these bounties on their head by this crazy cult. And then the rest of the book is kind of an extended fight scene and chase. So you start with a fight in the alley, and I just love the choreography here with Superman like just kind of tanking everything, and Dick Grayson being a lot more nimble, and then how the two work together, and like these panels here. Before and then like quickly after that, we go pretty much Mad Max for a bit. We have a little Mad Max scene where there's a chase on a highway, and that's always fun. I don't know if I've said this enough on this show, but Mad Max Fury Road has been my favorite film all year. Probably one of my favorite films of all time, if not my favorite film just like ever. So if you haven't seen Mad Max Fury Road, check it out. But it's always nice when you get a little, when I can capture a little bit of that in things that aren't Mad Max. So this was a fun little sequence here. And then the whole book is just fun. It's Superman and Dick Grayson kind of quipping at each other because, and as they explore in this book, they're both happy. Like their common link is Batman, and where Batman is, sour and kind of, droll, not droll, but, he's kind of the moodier, broody type. Superman and Dick Grayson are both pretty well adjusted, and they discuss that here, how, and just, their difference is how Batman is always constantly prepared for everything. Superman, being invulnerable, being invincible, never has to really prepare because he can afford to be careless, while Dick Grayson likes to improvise. He's more improvisational. He doesn't prepare because he doesn't expect that he won't be able to think his way out of things in the moment. And so it's fun to see these two working together. Eventually Luthor shows up for a bit, and the Luthor moment is absolutely hilarious. The way that the characters play off Luthor's hubris, pretty much. It's great to see. And they really nail Luthor. In like the few panels he's in, they really nail his character as someone who is smart, the smartest man in the world, can do, pretty much anything, can figure anything out, can win all, 100% of the time if it weren't for his hubris. If he weren't so full of pride, he could do whatever he wants. But, that's his downfall. Like the 5 panels he's in this book, they nail that. They totally encapsulate what's great about Lex Luthor. It's just an incredibly fun, well-written book, well-illustrated, nice coloring. It really is great all around. Really fun single issue. If you've been liking Grayson, pick it up. If you want another Superman story, pick it up. If you want to see a story where you just have like 2 fun-loving guys, have a extended fight / chase with a crazy gang, pick up Grayson. It will not be disappointing. Really, really fun book. Next up is Batman Annual number 4. Yeah, number 4, I got that correct. A bit of a side story. Well, I mean, most annuals are side stories, but this one more so. Kind of taking place in between the current Batman story and like Arkham Manor, which I guess died. I kind of stopped paying attention to it. But this story concerns Bruce Wayne moving back into Wayne Manor after, of course, dying, coming back, losing his memory and all that. Wayne Manor has been Arkham Manor for the past however long it was Arkham Manor. But now the asylum has moved back into other prisons, the villains have been transferred out, and Bruce Wayne is moving back in, and basically has to deal with more of his past coming back up. This is the title page here is just great as he's moving in, he's feeling a little uncomfortable, and Alfred asks, is something the matter? And you have just this great page here with Bruce in front of a portrait of his old self, just showing that adjustment and that uncomfort that he's feeling moving back in. Of course, it's not just a normal tour of the house. Things get complicated when it is revealed that not all of the villains were moved out. Somehow, Clayface, Mr. Freeze, and the Riddler managed to hide away in the manor, and they want to put Bruce through his paces. They want to break Bruce Wayne, and it's revealed why. I don't think it's much of a spoiler why, but they want to break him because they blame Bruce Wayne for all of their basically all of their trouble. They're blaming on Bruce Wayne because, as far as they know, Bruce Wayne funds the Batman. That Batman couldn't do anything without Bruce Wayne's money. Because they can't get at the Batman, they're going to get at Bruce Wayne and try and break Bruce Wayne and drive him mad in order to make him pay for all the mistreatment that they've had at the hands of Batman. And in response, you have Bruce Wayne, you have Alfred kind of fight back the best they can, being that Bruce Wayne is no longer Batman. He still wants to protect the people he cares about. The villains have taken Julie Madison and Gary Powers hostage, so they have to rescue them. Eventually, Alfred gets captured, and so it's just up to Bruce to figure his way through the house, through Wayne Manor, which is, of course, full of booby traps and all that, stop the villains and save, I guess, his new family, so to speak, while the villains are, of course, trying to mentally break him. It's a weird issue. It's not the issue I was expecting from the cover. There is no Batman in this, really. It is more so than any Batman story in recent memory, a Bruce Wayne story. It is a story of Bruce Wayne and his effect on the Rogues Gallery, his effect on Gotham City, and then kind of the mental state of Bruce Wayne minus Batman. There's a point in this book where the villains try and recreate the night of the Wayne's murders, in order to try and get Bruce kind of to relive that tragedy in order to mentally break him. And so we get kind of I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but like we're so used to this moment being the creation of the Batman, that we're seeing this now in a light of what it would do to Bruce Wayne. Not what it would do, not the killing, the murder of Thomas and Martha Wayne as the creation of Batman, but as the fracturing of Bruce Wayne's mind. And so it's an interesting kind of light to put that story into, and one that we're not really used to hearing in the comic books. And then the end is really fun. How Bruce Wayne eventually outsmarts all the villains is really fun to watch, especially considering that he isn't Batman. This is just Bruce Wayne minus Batman defeating the Riddler, Clayface, and Mr. Freeze in this home that he's still not entirely comfortable with. So it's fun. It's not the best Batman story, but it's an interesting one. It's one we haven't. It's a new one, it's novel, so that's fun. But yeah, I enjoyed a lot of this book, and the Riddler's great. The Riddler has a lot of dialogue, and I always love Riddler, how he's written, how he's just so smug, and he believes that he's invincible in a way. He always believes, that he's the smartest man in the room, and so I always like reading that sort of dialogue, especially because he thinks he's got Bruce Wayne in his pocket because Bruce Wayne is an amnesiac now, and so he's really kind of taunting and insufferable, and I love it. I think we're going to do this all in one video because we haven't even hit 20 minutes yet. So, moving on to the non-DC books, we have Godzilla in Hell, issue 3. Yeah. And this book kind of gives a little backstory of how Godzilla ended up in Hell. We begin on Earth, with Godzilla fighting Space Godzilla and eventually blowing up the planet. And they're in Brazil, as you can tell by the Christ the Redeemer statue in the background. And I love this fight. I love all the fights in Godzilla. In this book, they're all so well done. They're also just colorful and beautiful. Just really actiony, really traditional Godzilla. As you have Godzilla on fire, shooting shooting his nuclear breath at Space Godzilla and all that. And and then the Earth explodes. Godzilla seemingly dies, wakes up in this really twisted heaven where all of the angels have Mothra wings, and you have this mountain which is presumably some sort of god or something, telling Godzilla to submit and serve peace, submit, serve peace. Godzilla's basically like, fuck you, smashes the Mothra angel, and then gets sent into hell for his disobedience, where he is forced to fight Space Godzilla again in hell. And then by the end of this book, you have Heaven and Hell fighting over Godzilla because neither of them wants Godzilla to go to the other side. And the ending is just great. It's just a great ending because, you have Heaven and Hell fighting over Godzilla, and Godzilla wants none of it. And that's kind of the conflict of this book. And it's great. It's such a fun book. It's not the smartest book, It won't give you a lot of brain food here, but it's a fun read. It's incredibly enjoyable. The art is fantastic. So yeah, I definitely recommend picking up Godzilla in Hell. Just for this page. If this page does not interest you at all, then it's not for you. But if you have any interest whatsoever, if 1% of you wants to know more about this story from this spread over here, or just wants to see more of art like this, then pick up this book, and you will not be disappointed. Next up, going to Vertigo Books, is American Vampire, second cycle, issue number 10. What happens in this book? Well, we start off with a vampire space fight. Vampires fighting in space, of course, just outside Sputnik. You have Skinner and O'Toole, or Poole rather, Skinner and Poole fighting the Russian vampires in space, trying to retrieve the videotape from Sputnik. And while that's happening, you have Felicia and Pearl, who have basically Felicia's given up and says, okay, we're moving on to Plan Z, which involves nuking Russia. Basically, Felicia's given up all hope that their plan has worked because she has discovered there's been a mole the entire time. And so she plans to send a nuke towards Russia in order to get Russia to nuke the United States and hopefully kill the Beast and the Traitor. Meanwhile, you have Skinner and O'Poole, or not O'Poole, just Poole, stranded out in space still, trying to survive and bring back the videotape. There's a bit more twists after that, which I'm not going to spoil, or try not to. I'm just not going to spoil. I'm not going to talk about them anymore. But the story, it has this weird pace where things look bad, and then a little bit look good, and you have this hope moment, this little respite of, oh my god, things might turn around for the better. And then the book ends with, nope, things are worse than ever. And I love the pace that this book has, because I keep on wanting to see how are they going to fix this? How are they going to get out of this one? How are they going to prevent World War III plus vampires from happening, essentially? And yeah, it gets more extreme. You started off this arc with vampires going into space, and now it ends with vampires lost in space and a nuke and the threat of World War III plus vampires. So yeah, that sounds really dumb. World War III plus vampires. That sounds like a joke, but this book it's serious. In this book, it is a serious threat, and you don't want it to happen. So yeah, it's just fun. It's a fun read with great emotional bends, great emotional turns. So yeah, recommended. And the last book this week, a book that I've been waiting for a long time. Finally, the last issue of Sandman Overture, issue 6, last issue, the one that wraps up the Overture, ties it back into the original Sandman run, and this is a beautiful book. I'm just going to show you some of the spreads in this book, because it is amazing. Just everything. This entire book is an experience. It's more than reading. It's more than looking at the pictures. Just reading this, especially if you've read the original Sandman run. It's fantastic. It is a completely like absorbing aesthetic experience. It's just great. Another spread here, which involves Dream talking to Delirium. That's just one. Every page in this book is beautiful. Everything and it just works so well. Everything in this book. It's a little complicated. The layouts are a little obscure. You might have to read over pages a couple times. But once you get it, once everything falls in, once everything clicks, it is amazing. It deals with the end of the universe and Dream trying to prevent it. Like I don't want to talk too much about the plot because at this point, this is the finale. But basically, Dream has to save the universe or has to recreate the universe. So he has an arc of about 1,000 creatures from all different time periods and dimensions and all that. Just like 1,000 of the most random things you can possibly combine all in this arc, and he orders them to dream about the universe so it can be recreated after this big doomsday event happens. And then, of course, it all eventually does tie into Sandman issue 1, and the way it ties in is it ties in so beautifully. It ties in just incredibly well, and by the end, by the time it happens, you realize, oh, this is how it happened. This is how Sandman #1 happened, essentially, how he was able to get captured at the beginning of Sandman #1, and you see him fall into that, and it's just, it feels deserved. It doesn't feel like a cheap way to just link the two stories together. It feels entirely deserved. It feels fulfilling, like a promise was kept, and so it's just beautiful. I'm sure I've recommended it every time I've talked about it, but the original Sandman run is one of my favorite, just like literary works of all time. It's all in trade right now. I definitely recommend you pick it up, and then I guess once this gets into trade, pick up this too, because it's a beautiful companion piece, and it's a great prequel. I mean, it's more than a prequel because time is kind of loopy, but yeah, it's crazy good. So and this the ending, like the last piece, really does tie it all together really well, in a way that's emotionally and narratively fulfilling. So yeah, that is Sandman Overture issue 6, and that is it for this week's comic book reviews. Short poll this week. Next week is going to be big. Next week, I think I have like 12 or 15 books coming in. And it is also the day before Comic-Con. So, going to be kind of a big sort of thing going on there with 12 or 15 or however many books I'm getting the day before Comic-Con. So I hope you'll join me for that. But before we get to next week, I want to thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please rate it. If you feel like it, please subscribe. Join our community. And any comments, questions, anything whatsoever, please leave them in the below area where I can read them and respond, hopefully. So, yeah, that's it for this week. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope you will join me next week for what will surely be a fun week of comic book reviews.